Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I have a very challenging task to present ERC rules within 20 minutes, which is hardly possible, but I'll try to do my best. Fortunately, our president helped me by showing some slides that I will comment in a greater detail. Maybe not everyone is aware, but there is a very nice building in the center of that slide is the headquarters of the ERC and our executive agency. And those who manage to get to the step 2 of evaluations go to that building and have pleasure to meet experts and to discuss with them important, say, research issues. So some numbers. That slide was presented. What is really important this year, for example, we have over 2 billion euros to take. Yeah? This is our money, yeah? Because ERC is our agency, our European agency, and we can take money from it. We pay to our taxes to finance it. So it's one of, say, also Polish funding agencies like NCN and CBR and so on. And hopefully we will have a higher budget in the, say, Horizon Europe. When we look at the results, and this is a picture showing ERC grants by country. So UK is, in terms of numbers, is number of awarded grants is the most successful, almost 2,000 grants. Our performance is not as good. As you see, there are 32 grants shown here, because these are 32 signed agreements. In fact, we received until now 34 grants, which is not a very impressive number, as we know. Especially if we compare with some countries like Hungary, 65, Czech Republic, 38, and these are smaller countries, yeah? They have fewer researchers than we have. So there is still room for improvement. When you look at the success rate, you see that the leader is the Netherlands. Huh? The success rate is the highest. They have fewer grants than UK, for example, or Germany, because it's a smaller country, but they are really successful in applying for ERC grants. In the recent competition for starting grants, researchers from Poland received 2 starting grants, and from the small Netherlands received 50. Yeah, so it's some difference still. When we look at the success rates, we see that, for example, in Hungary, the success rate is pretty decent, yeah? 9% comparing to Poland, 3%, although it's some improvement because some years ago it was 2%, so we're improving. I'm showing the example of Hungary because sometimes I hear the comments here in Poland that, oh, if we have more money, but you know, gross national product per capita in Hungary is a little bit lower than that in Poland. And also research funding by the state in Hungary is a little bit lower than in Poland. Yeah? So this is not an excuse. Of course, money is important, yeah? And we do need more money, but for research. When we look at institutions, this is the list, dense list of top European institutions hosting ERC grantees. So number 1 is University of Cambridge, 248 ERC grants. University of Oxford is not as good because 1 grantee less, so it's not a major difference. When we look at those top institutions, no, there are no Polish institutions. Yeah, but we can see that. Yeah, but hopefully one of these days we will see some of our universities or research institutes on that list. So funding, as it was already shown, the general scheme of ERC funding is very simple. It's strength. Yeah? So there are three major types of grants: starting grant, consolidator grant, advanced grant, and two additional that I will comment on a little bit later on. So starting grant is for those between 2 and 7 years after PhD degree with possible extensions. So we have to remember that if there are some important reasons, for example, parental leaves, that period can be extended. Consolidator grants 7 up to 12 years after PhD degree with also those extensions. There are no limits for advanced grants, so everyone can apply. Everyone with, say, solid research background and research track. As money is concerned, yeah, it's a decent money. Well, starting grant up to 1.5 million, consolidated grant up to 2, advanced grant up to 2.5 million euros. However, we have whereas some additional money is possible. So if you need sophisticated equipment and it's justified, you can apply for more money. So these are, most of our money goes to those three types of funding schemes. But we have also a proof of concept, which is similar to proof of concept of NCN, so Polish Funding Agency, just money to show that something is possible. So this is only granted for ERC grantees, so those who have one of those three, say, major grants, and they need some extra money to show that something can be implemented in reality, in practice. It's not much money, but you know, it is. And synergy grants are a little bit different because we have to remember that ERC grants go to a single principal investigator. Of course, that single principal investigator can hire postdocs, PhD degree students, technicians, and so on, what is needed, but it's around a single person. In synergy grants, there is some exception because there are 2 up to 4 principal investigators, and one of the important requirements of general in ERC is that the principal investigator has to be associated with a researcher from European research area, which includes European Union and some countries that sign special association treaties. But Synergy Grant is also an exception because one of those principal investigators within Synergy Grant could be from outside European research area, but only just one. This might be related to researchers from UK, yeah? But we'll see. So, and in Synergy Grant, this competition, this is very competitive funding scheme. So don't think as your first attempt to approach ERC about Synergy Grant. I do not recommend that. So this is the competition for really good people with very strong research track and very good ideas. And of course, they have to show that there is synergy between those principal investigators working together. So synergy is essential here. And evaluation panels for, say, Polish scientific community, those evaluation panels is nothing really strange because almost the same scheme is in the National Science Center. So it's used in Poland, reused because we, in Poland, in NCN, we took that from the ERC. I have to admit that within the Scientific Council of the ERC, we are working on some modification of that scheme because time is passing, times are changing. We simply need some reshaping, not very deep, but we need some extra panels. But we will work on that. So don't worry. Now we have 25 evaluation panels. In the speech of Director Budzanowska, it was mentioned that some maybe Polish experts are needed within panels. I'm one of those responsible for that low number of, say, a relatively low number of Polish researchers within panels, because I have to present proper names, and sometimes I have difficulties to find people who have enough time and would like to devote their efforts to evaluating ERC grants. But although when we look at the numbers, we look a little bit better in terms of number of experts than the number of grants. So the number of experts here shown is 178, which means something. But of course, definitely we would need more experts from the so-called EU 13 countries. The point is, of course, that we are trying to balance experts from different geographical areas and different institutions, not just to have all experts from a single country. It's not allowed. So we tried, we do our best, but of course we need really excellent people, and definitely those experts we have in ERC are really top researchers. Not necessarily very old. Yeah. So, evaluation criteria. There is just a single evaluation criterion, excellence. Yeah. So, as Jean-Pierre told us earlier, there are no priorities. It's international. It's absolutely bottom-up. So we look for the best proposals, and of course we have to look at the research track record of the people who apply, because we have to be sure that that money won't be lost. Yeah? So the first thing that experts look at is excellence of the research project. It should have groundbreaking nature. So no incremental research, even if it is something important in general or interesting. But if it is incremental, just extension of some previous research, some previous ideas, no chance to be funded by VRC. A potential impact. Of course, we look at what could be the impact of the proposal. And scientific approach, yeah, we are talking about science. It's high risk, high gain, frontier research, but it has to use the scientific approach. There's no doubt about that. Not science fiction or magic or any of such things. And of course, we have to check the excellence of the principal investigator at a given stage of his or her career. Yeah? So of course, when we are assessing somebody for starting grant who finished his PhD degree or her PhD degree 2 years before applying, we have a little bit different requirements than for those who are 7 years after their PhD degrees. So we check intellectual capacity, creativity, commitment. Yeah? We look, of course, at, say, publication record, but not in terms of numbers, Hirsch factors, impact factors of journals, number of publications. We look at the quality and at the impact of those publications. It could be a single publication that changed something in the scientific world. That's the point. When we look at technicalities, sometimes people are saying that, oh, we don't apply to ERC because, you know, it's so much bureaucracy. It's so time-consuming when we are working on preparation, all those documents and so on. But that's not true. Submission is simple. It's, of course, electronic submission. And we have part 8, which is the proposal and principal investigator info, then host institution info, some basic data, then budget, ethical issues, because we have to care about that, of course. And there are some call-specific questions depending on the call. There are some annexes, for example, statement of support of the host institution, yeah? Because the research has to be done somewhere, so such a statement is needed. So these are administrative issues, quite simple. Then part B is a PDF file that contains an abstract and cross-domain explanation, 1 page, extended synopsis, 5 pages, CV, 2 pages. Generally, people can submit their CV in any form they want, but we recommend a model which we supply, because it facilitates work of experts, yeah, just comparing different CVs. Funding ID, track record, 2 pages. Part B1 is very important because it's assessed in the first step of evaluation. So the experts in the first step don't see part B. So everything important has to be contained in the extended synopsis in part B1. And we have to remember that those experts, panel experts, are not very narrow specialists in the topic of the application. It could happen that there are among those panel members 16 people or so experts in that particular topic, but sometimes these are people that are close but not necessarily very narrow experts. So it should be, say, written wisely. And then if you go to step 2, part B is very important. So all those experts that see the proposal in step 2, they see both part B1 and B2. And scientific proposal up to 15 pages. So it's not much. It's similar to the applications we have for NCN, yeah, National Science Center. Sometimes we say, I spent several months working on the proposal and it was rejected. And my work is completely lost. I can say that's rubbish. Yeah? You know, it's not lost. You worked on your scientific development. You were thinking about your ideas. You tried to find methodology. So it's not lost, even if you haven't received a grant. So it's evaluation procedure is pretty similar to that in NCN. So in the step 1, remote assessment of the panel members of the PI and synopsis. So that is part B1. Then there is a panel meeting in that nice building I showed you earlier in Brussels, and they discuss about value of the proposals and qualifications of the principal investigator, and there are scores A, B, C. And the best solution for an applicant is to receive A, of course, because he or she goes to step 2. And in step 2, we ask experts, narrow experts in the topic of application. We ask people from around the world, just we are trying to find really top, best people who are able to assess properly the proposal. And we collect 4, 5, 6, sometimes even 8 or 9 reviews. And then there's another panel meeting of panelists, but they look also at the assessment by external experts. And they rank the proposals with score A. And then we try the best of the proposals with score A. Not all of them, because we don't have enough money. But we found the best. With synergy grants, it's a little bit different, because synergy grants, per definition, are usually highly interdisciplinary. So we have a different arrangement. I won't be talking a lot about the procedure in synergy grants, because probably there are not too many people here interested just in application for synergy grants, but it's possible, of course. When we look at the last competition in synergy grants, there are PIs from Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, so it's possible. But as one of the PIs, invest very strong group. Yeah? But of course, you can find all the details on the website of the ERC. You can also find the call calendar. So we know everything when there are deadlines to apply. And of course, it's necessary to think well in advance just to prepare the proposal properly. Thank you very much for your attention.